you're talking about Deadly Apples, so you're working on a record.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Basically, we started working on it after we got back from the Twins of Evil tour in 2018 with Manson and Zombie. So slowly started working on that in between other stuff. Like we did another tour with Manson last year, last fall in 2019. Um, we also did some other stuff. And actually, something pretty crazy and interesting is when this when this pandemic started, we were actually on our way to Mexico to play
Mhm.
the Hell in Heaven festival there, which is like their biggest rock metal festival there.
Mhm.
Um, so we were literally like getting on a plane and leaving at the same time as everything was shutting down here, and it was kind of chaotic. Like while we were on the plane, the Canadian Prime Minister was basically saying, you guys uh, should stay in Canada, like asking Canadians not to leave the country or come back to the country. So he said that while we were on the plane on our way to Mexico,
Yeah.
um, and tons of bands had canceled.
Yeah.
I think Megadeth was supposed to play it, Korn, and a lot of other bands that they just didn't show up. And so we actually had a great set on the main stage on the first day of the festival.
Mhm.
And I usually go to the barricade and into the crowd and everything during our shows,
Mhm.
and I did so anyways. And I figured, if I'm gonna catch it, then at least it's gonna be one last show before everything gets shut down, because by that point all the other shows and festivals around the world uh, were canceled or postponed.
Yeah.
So that was like the last one standing for some reason. And and after that first day, they had so many band cancellations the next day, and we had the day off there, and they asked us if we wanted to play again. So we
Okay.
basically played the exact same slot on the main stage the next day in like mid-afternoon.
Oh wow.
And it felt like it was even crazier. And the crowd just went crazy. And I guess they were probably disappointed or angry that many bands decided not to come. And and I totally get it. And lots of these bands, well, like Megadeth or whatever, they're older guys, and some
Yeah.
of them have health issues. So I totally get it. And it was kind of a scary time while all of this was unfolding. So we decided to play the second day, and it was just like people were going crazy. And so we came back home, and we were kind of wondering if we were going to be able to get back home, because at that point they were talking about closing the borders and stuff.
Yeah.
Um, and we managed to come back. I actually did lots of interviews with Canadian press while I was still in Mexico, because we
Oh.
were kind of in this odd situation. And we got back. We all respected the quarantine, and none of us got it. So it
Yeah.
ended up being fun, and it was just like such a unique feeling to be playing at you know literally the last festival on earth. um so yeah, that was pretty special. But yeah, going back to the album, we obviously, there's no shows, so we've been mostly focusing on the new album,
Yeah.
for in terms of the band projects.
Okay.
And yeah, we've been working with Michael Beinhorn, doing
Okay.
pre-production work remotely, and we
Okay.
should do more of that in early 2021, but we've got about 14, 15 songs, and you know, it's the first stuff we were working on was kind of I guess softer or more, I guess, poppier, and it just didn't feel right, I guess.
Mhm.
And then we just went the opposite direction and went back, I guess, to the roots of what Deadly Apples used to do, you know, which was a lot heavier.
Mhm.
Um, and and yeah, I feel like it's kind of a really cool mix, and I'm really I'm really excited about it, and you know, with all the things that have happened this year, you know, it's been such a transformative year on a personal level that, you know, there's been plenty of inspiration for lyrics.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay. So officially, how many recordings does Deadly Apples have out publicly?
I mean, we kind of have a weird history in the sense that, you know, the first in the first iteration of Deadly Apples, you know, we released an EP called Infected,
Mhm.
um, and that's the one where we have self-inflicted oppression and infection, which are
Mhm.
probably our two best known songs. And
Okay.
then we did a full album called Petty around 2010, 2011,
Mhm.
which we actually mixed in Nashville at the Blackbird studio. We did that with Vance Powell, who's this great producer who does like most of the Jack White stuff.
Mhm.
And and then at that point, I was also doing the festival, and the festival was just really exploding in popularity. You know, it was just becoming massive. So
Mhm.
I just kind of had to focus on it because the growth was just insane. You know, we became
Yeah.
by far the largest rock festival in Canada for many years. So kind of put the band on hold. And then 7 years later, when I had a bit more time on my hands, and so did Antoine, who's my bandmate and the main songwriter of the band.
Mhm.
Um, we basically reunited, and we released some of the songs off the Petty album.
Mhm.
Um, and you know, we've been doing a bunch of stuff since, and you know, we debated whether we should release the Petty album or not, because you know, we I still feel like it's a good album, and
Mhm.
you know, there's some really solid songs on there, but also it doesn't really represent where we're at right now. So, you know, we're probably gonna release it eventually when the time is right.
Mhm.
But right now we're really focused on the new album, which is gonna be called Distress.
Oh,
So
nice.
that's gonna be our focus.
Okay. Are you looking for a label, or are you gonna self-release it, or how do you have any idea yet about which direction you wanna go with that, or
Well, we're not even like at that point yet, you know, where we're just trying to focus right now on just doing the best album possible, and
Okay.
the best songs. And you know, I guess for a while I kind of got too focused on that stuff and kind of
Mhm.
almost um, you know, not carried away, but I guess, you know, my attention wasn't on the actual product, you know,
Yeah.
on the actual art. Um, and I guess that's one other thing that this pandemic brought, you know, it kind of helped me focus more on, you know, the basic of, you know, what's really important. And then, you know, afterwards we can figure things out.
Oh, cool. Okay. Well, so all the other stuff, like whether about how you're gonna promote it and all that, that's gonna be to be determined in 2021 then, in the coming year.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess.
Okay. And so I guess the other thing that I want to ask you about was Yeah, I mean, you kind of answer some of it, but this the premise of this channel is about, I call it music entrepreneurship. It's about, I call it reinventing the hustle, and having about how people have reinvented themselves in terms of trying to reach audiences. But how have you? I know as a festival promoter, you're constantly having to reinvent yourself, because every edition that you put out as a festival or an event, you have to change your strategies a little bit. But I mean, regardless of whether we're talking about the pandemic or not, how have you found yourself reinventing yourself in terms of how to reach new audiences to come to the festival or anything that you're promoting?
Um, I mean, I think over the years, I've been pretty creative in ways to, I guess, attract people or just, you know, get people talking about the festival.
Mm,
And I think the whole aspect of the experience, as I was mentioning earlier, of the small town in the middle of nowhere uh, that just gets taken over by all these punks and metalheads, and it becomes,
mm,
like as I was saying, like a punk rock metal Woodstock. I feel like uh, playing on that aspect and the whole kind of party and debauchery like vibe, and that whole thing, it really got us a lot of press, and often, for 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 good or bad, we got probably more press for all these scandals, or however you want to call them, or
yeah,
publicity stunts that we've done over the years. um but also I do think that, just trying to offer the best lineup possible every year, was definitely something that helped bring people to the festival, because
yeah,
in the bigger years we had like over 130 bands playing on 5 stages, which is just crazy. And
yeah,
it turned out not to be the best uh, decision, in terms of finances. But uh, that was never really my point when I started, or my goal when I started the festival. I just wanted to create like the best festival ever, for not only for the festival goers, but also for myself as a music fan myself. That's really what I was into. And I've lived in Montebello my whole life. So the other aspect was, you know, when I was a kid, I used to have to travel all over the place, in bigger cities and stuff to attend shows and concerts,
yeah,
and just to bring people in my small hometown in the middle of nowhere, and bring some of my favorite bands to basically play in my backyard.
yeah,
That was, that's why I've always done it. I always felt like, uh, the money aspect was kind of a necessary evil. And you know the just that feeling of working a whole year and then seeing it, you know s- in front of your eyes. And just one example that comes to mind. Yeah, like I've always been a huge
yeah,
Deftones fan. And I ended up booking them at the festival a few times. And one time in particular, I really wanted to get them to play Around the Fur in full, which is still to this day one of my favorite albums ever.
yeah.
And somehow I pulled it off. And uh, they told me that they had done it once, I guess a long time ago when the album was released.
Okay,
And then this was the second time they've ever done it, and they haven't done it since.
okay,
And and that was just so special, like just hanging out with those guys before the show and just talking about the album. and then going up on stage, watching the whole show side stage. It was
Yeah.
basically like I got this private concert for myself as a fan. Just one of my favorite bands playing, one of my favorite albums of all time.
Yeah.
And then, there were like 40,000 other people that got to enjoy it at the same time.
Yeah.
And, basically on the same site where I used to like skateboard and stuff while listening to that album. So,
Yeah.
um, and then, hanging out after the show again and just talking again about the album. And, it's just those types of experiences for me, that that was the real pay, and that was why I was doing it, just to 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 get that experience, and just feel like, you're building something unique, and something that ended up being really meaningful to a lot of festival goers. Like, I could go on a long time about that, but just to mention it quickly, like,
Mhm.
the I had like so many festival goers over the years that, messaged me, or told me in person, how Rockfest basically saved their lives, in the
Oh, wow.
sense that, they had issues in their lives, or they've been struggling with mental illness, or whatever it is, or they hate their job, or there's
Yeah.
like so many different reasons, and to them, Rockfest was always like the one thing that they could look forward to, like, we can get through this, and Rockfest is in X amount of months or weeks or whatever. And uh and uh y- you know the uh, I've always been kind of a shy person, and kind of reserved, and I'm not the most outgoing person or the most expressive person.
Yeah.
And I was always that kid that would listen to these bands, and just felt like it felt reassuring in a way. So to kind of bring such an impact, and bring so much happiness to so many people, um the thought of that, I feel emotional right now just talking about it.
Yeah.
And that always, um meant a lot to me, to hear those stories, and just feeling like, wow, like I really managed to, make a difference to all these
Yeah.
people. And um it was always kind of odd for me. And um so so yeah, I don't know how how I got to this point, and what was the initial question, but I guess it's just
Yeah.
a long-winded answer explaining, you know why why I've done that for
Yeah.
so many years.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. Let me ask you this. So, as far as you know, in terms of the province of Quebec, or I don't know how much you know about the neighboring provinces, but can you actually do small, like maybe not concerts, but like even like acoustic shows, or is that completely not allowed at this point? You know what the rules
um
are? Let's say if you are to throw like a small event.
well, in the province of Quebec, like,
Hmm.
during last summer, basically they kind of, uh, it wasn't like a full confinement or a full lockdown as it was, in the months before that. So some festivals were able to do, small stuff.
Hmm.
I think that the allowed capacity was like 50 people for a while. So,
Oh, okay.
some did like these smaller things, and everyone had to be like socially distanced, and have masks, and that sort of thing.
Hmm.
And then, in September, they started shutting down again, but they
Oh,
did,
okay.
it like, it was different for every area. So you know, most of the populated areas like Montreal or Quebec City, you know, they were in what they called the red zone,
Okay.
and basically in the red zones, uh, you know, there's no gatherings allowed whatsoever. So, you
Okay.
know, they shut down like the movie theaters and the concert halls, and those were actually open for a little while during the summer, with like,
Oh, okay.
you know, like I guess maybe with a quarter of the usual capacity, you know, so
Yeah.
that every seats would be like socially distanced and stuff. And so they shut all those down. They shut down their restaurants and bars and pretty much everything in the red zones. But for the orange zones, like Montebello was, you know, that was still allowed basically. So
Okay.
technically, you know, if there was, I don't think there was any concerts in Montebello, but in the red zone, in the orange zone areas, technically you could still have, you know, bars open and have, you know, like uh, a band play or a singer songwriter or whatever, as long as
Mhm.
the capacity, the limited capacities were respected, and the social
Oh,
distancing and that sort of thing, and people had to sit down. Um, but just before the Christmas break, basically Montebello turned into a red zone,
oh,
because most of the people from the bigger cities were now, you know, spending all their weekends in the orange zones, so they could go to the restaurants and bars and everything. So uh, and same thing happened in different areas of the province. So
yeah.
they had to turn everything, you know, or at least most of these areas in red zones. And now what they did for the Christmas break, they basically shut down the entire province, regardless of the zone. For It's supposed to be for 2 weeks, but we'll see what happens. So now even the stores and the malls and that sort of thing, they're all closed down, and
Oh,
you know, it's basically just uh, um, you know, uh, places where you can get essential needs that are still open, and they're
yeah.
only allowed to sell essential needs. So basically, even now in the Walmarts, for instance, you can only purchase essential needs. So they blocked off all the sections of, you know, clothing or whatever else that's not like basically
Oh, wow.
food or medications or, you know, tools or stuff that needed to
Yeah,
repair, you know, leaks or, you know,
yeah.
urgent stuff like that. So it's yeah, it's kind of crazy, but I guess there it's kind of like that or different versions of that in pretty much all over the world, I would assume.
Yeah. Wow, that's crazy. I didn't think they would go that far. They would close off certain parts of Walmart. So,
Yeah, well, they're basically doing that because that was a big criticism that the government got during the first lockdown, that, you know, they kept the Walmarts open, even if they sell lots of stuff that's considered non-essential, but they're
yeah,
shutting down all the smaller businesses. So
yeah.
they're all suffering while Walmart is still allowed to sell that same stuff as those closed small businesses. So now I guess it was just a matter of like, you know, if we're going to shut down all these small businesses, then we're going to prevent uh, the big corporations from selling that same stuff. So
Oh, wow. That makes sense. I totally understand it. I think that's coming here pretty soon. So, at some point. So, but wow, that's crazy. So, okay. So, I guess we can wind down. So, anything else you want to bring up that you haven't mentioned yet, or that you want to talk about that you have coming up?
I mean, as I mentioned earlier, like my main focus for now is really developing the mountain bike project, which is a really fun thing to do, and I'm really passionate about it. And
Mhm.
I kind of have the same feeling as I had when I started Rockfest. That feeling of just building something new, something from scratch.
Mhm.
Um, so a- and as I said, it's kind of it's a lot less stressful than a festival, and it just feels good, like slowing down and just spending lots of time in nature. And
Yeah.
I don't want to sound corny or anything, but I kind of feel like on a personal level, um, it it felt good, and it was a good thing to basically take a break and slow down and kind
Yeah.
of get a perspective on everything, because I've just been going nonstop for nearly 15 years and never looking
Yeah.
back. So it just feels good to basically take care of yourself and just kind of reinvent yourself. And I just feel like it's been a good and necessary thing, and it's been a very uh, transformative year. Um, so that's pretty much what I'm focusing on, and also
Oh, cool.
working on the album, the Apples album. And we'll see what happens with festivals, but I'm not counting on that. And
Mhm.
um, if we can do it again at some point down the line, and it can make people happy, then sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's pretty much where I'm at. Just being healthier on every level. And um,
Yeah.
yeah, I guess it probably had that effect on a lot of people. It's
Yeah.
changed in in a positive way. I would hope lots of people. It certainly did for me.
Yeah. Do you have a name for the mountain bike project yet? Like, if or is that actually happening yet, or is that something that you're working towards making it
Uh,
into an actual thing?
we're aiming for it to open in 2021,
Oh, okay.
the beginning of summer. So we haven't like announced it officially yet. And I won't be the spokesperson for that. Like
Okay.
as I said, like I'm really part of a team, in the sense that I didn't
Okay.
want to be like you know the 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 one man project like I did with the festival. I kind of feel like I've done that. And yeah, it's probably going to be announced in the next few months. And
Oh, nice.
obviously a totally different thing that has nothing to do with the festival or with music. But it's I feel like it's a good timing, and it's something that's healthy,
Yeah.
for everyone. So
Okay. All right. And then lastly, well, even though I guess if anybody wants to find you on the interweb, where can they find you if they want to contact you about any updates or just to say hello?
well, I'm on Facebook, Alex Martel with the blue check mark. And I'm also on Instagram, Alex Martel Official. Um, and you can also check out Deadly Apples. We're on all social media. The festival is Montebello Rock. You can also find us on all social media, even if nothing's going on for the time being. But yeah, that's pretty much it.
All right, cool.